We just kind of want to start with like a little bit of your background just to kind of get an idea of what you know and what you've done. So just to start, like, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Raytown, Missouri, which is in the Kansas City area. Went to Raytown High School. Went to school all through all of my years. We lived in the same house, right near the high school. I have two younger brothers, and grew up. My parents were together the whole time I was growing up. I went to college at the University of Missouri and earned my bachelor's degree in journalism with an emphasis in broadcast journalism. So, my first job out of college was actually as an associate news producer at the NBC affiliate in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I knew when I graduated that I wanted to get an advanced degree. I just didn't know what in. And I was at the TV station for a while. I was working overnight and just started going to Jenny Craig to lose weight. And I ended up working for Jenny Craig. And that's really where I got into people management. And that's when I decided to start working on my HR master's degree in HR management.
Wow, yeah.
Um, so I worked for Robert Half and Accountants. That was kind of my first like recruiting job.
Mm.
And then while I was working there, I was visiting a client at American Sterling Bank, and they created an HR coordinator position, which was really my first HR job. And I was there about 2 years, but I learned a lot about people and about hiring and about training and about benefits. um, the bank ended up restructuring HR, and ultimately I went to Garmin, and I was at Garmin from 2002 to 2016. And I really did everything. Garmin was just a baby company at the
Yeah.
time, and I was hired as a generalist, which meant that I did recruiting, training, and employee relations. And then in 2006, I was promoted to recruiting manager and was responsible for creating, building, and managing our college recruiting and technical recruiting team. So we were responsible for all of the recruiting in North America of technical professionals. So we created a college recruiting program, and a lot of the hiring that we did was right out of college. And then we needed experienced people too. So I had a couple of technical recruiters that were actually sourcing experienced technical talent. So I did that for a few years. Then I took on a project leader role, where I was managing just different projects, benefits related projects, employee engagement projects. I worked on our first engagement survey and all the things that went with that. I was doing creating and delivering a lot of training. I also started helping with acquisitions. So we did 5 acquisitions that I was involved with at Garmin. And I also eventually was the HR manager for the acquisitions, so the companies that we acquired, in handling all areas of HR. In 2016, the opportunity to come to TVH was presented to me, and the thing that attracted me to TVH was Elle's, and her focus on our people. And when I came, the HR department was very transactional, very administrative, and so was able to build a team and really partner with the business to deliver HR programs and initiatives that were going to help them be more effective. And the role has always been the head HR role, but a year and a half ago, I was promoted to vice president of HR and have been serving on the executive team. And now I'm actually leaving TVH.
Okay.
I'm in a job search, have lots of really cool opportunities,
Yeah.
but just looking for a company that's growing, that has people as its focus, who understands the importance of people leadership and culture. And that's kind of where I am today.
Cool. So I just wanted to touch on one thing you mentioned. So you like your undergrad degree is not in what you're doing now. So do you
Right.
have any like advice you could give to students that are in a degree and they're like struggling to like want it, or if they want to change it or anything like that?
Well, yes. So I will say that I use my degree extensively with all the communication that we have to do, both in person and writing. So, my advice would be, you know, if you're in like more of a niche degree like engineering or accounting, and you think that that's not really going to be what you are going to do long term, go to a broader degree like business or psychology, because the skills and the experiences that you have in getting that degree are going to serve you no matter what you do. But if you're already in business or psychology, or a general degree that really could be used across business, my advice would be to stick it out and finish that degree. And then, I always tell college students it's really important to do internships, because that really helps you weed out what you don't want to do and hopefully helps you find what you do want to do.
Right. So you mentioned basically the transferable skills that you'll learn in a broader degree. What would you say are the most important of those skills that you look for when hiring new people out of college?
I would say absolutely communication
Right.
skills, verbal and written communication skills, the ability to make connections and develop trust-based relationships with people. Um, that's absolutely critical. Um, Second, I would say problem solving, the ability to, like, even if you don't know how to do something, like being able to research it and find out what other people have done and what best practices are, and put it together yourself. And I would say three is just the ability to collaborate. It kind of goes back to communication, but it's the ability to make those connections with people and have productive and effective collaboration. Being able to work in a team, there's very few jobs that you can work by yourself. So if you're an introvert and you like working independently and you've kind of been independent your whole life, you've got to develop those skills if you want to be effective in your career.
Right. Well, that's great. Thanks for sharing that about those skills, because it's good to hear from you because you've worked in so many different places and they all still apply in every single one.
They do.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on a little more towards leadership. So you
Sure.
mentioned that you kind of run your team of HR at TVH, but could you expand a little bit more on how you see yourself as a leader in that role?
Well, I think that really has evolved over the course of my career, but I really try to be a collaborative leader. So, talking to the team about ideas that I have, getting their feedback, what will work, what will not work, and then encouraging them to bring ideas to the table as well. The best teams are ones that each person has different strengths and weaknesses, and you shore up those weaknesses and you build on those strengths. And so that really is, what I try to do as a leader. I spend a lot of time with my people. I do one-on-ones with everybody on my team. I try to, if they've got roadblocks, I try to help remove those roadblocks. I see that as a very key function of a leader. And if they need help, like, I'm not afraid to get down in the trenches and help. If it's helping with a job fair or setting up an interview, I consider myself as a part of the team as well. And then the other thing is I really try to care for them personally. We've had employees who needed help moving or needed help with groceries, or had lost a family member. And so just acknowledging those moments in my team members' lives and letting them know that I care,
Right.
I think is really important for leaders.
Yeah, those are all great. So going off like how you are a leader, what have you learned about your own leadership style like by working in HR?
Yeah, so I learned a lot at Garmin.
Okay.
So I am very results oriented. So I'm like, okay, let's hit the goals. And I didn't spend enough time really getting to know my people, talking to them about the issues they were having, helping them uncover those issues and remove those roadblocks and problem solve on their own. Um, I was like in my office, like, okay, let's go, let's go. And I didn't develop those trust-based relationships that are absolutely important. And it's not just on my team, it's on, the hiring managers that you're working with, or the managers that you're having to help counsel an employee or doing a termination. So I think, everybody says leading by example as well, which you should do. You should demonstrate the values of your company. You should uphold the values of the company. If you've got employees that aren't performing, you've got to address it. And, helping managers get to the point where they can. But I think that was the biggest lesson learned for me. So developing the relationships with my team and really having those personal relationships and making sure that they knew that I cared.
Right.
And then the other thing is, you as an HR person have strategies and things that you want to do, but if you don't have the buy-in from the business, it's not going to be successful. And so it's just as important to collaborate with the business. If you've got, let's say you're rolling out a performance management system. Okay, so we're doing this no matter what, but let's involve the business and get their perspective and have them involved in the testing so they can be ambassadors for us. This is a business priority, not an HR priority. And so that's another big, I think,
Right.
lesson learned in leadership.
Yeah, that's great. I like how you say that. You can kind of picture like all the different departments. They're all independent, but they're all very interrelated. I like
Yes.
that. So another question. So at Doan, we focus a lot on leadership, like joined with community service and things like
Yes.
that. So how does your company or your department give back to the community, and why do you think that's important when thinking about leadership?
Well, I think, I have a heart for the philanthropy and the community. And so I think I've always been involved since I've been at Garmin on different boards. So the Olathe Public School Foundation board, the Mayor's Christmas Tree board. Now I'm on the Boys and Girls Club board. And I think that it's important for company leaders to be involved in the community, um, to show the companies, yes, we're employing people in the community, but we also recognize that we're a pillar of the community and we need to be present and we need to represent, we need to be part of the solution for those communities. So I've encouraged, we have had several people go through Leadership Olathe. I went through Leadership Olathe in 2009, and we've had 4 or 5 people at TVH go through it since I've been here. And that is all about being a good corporate citizen and being involved in the community and networked in the community. I think it's the right thing to do, but it also helps spread the word about your company, and it helps from a talent acquisition standpoint to get your name out there.
Right.
So I think that being on boards, I think TVH, of course, has the volunteer day off. So we do encourage our employees to spend at least 8 hours a year, which is company paid time, giving back to the community. We have some key partners that we work with, but we also approve employees' personal passions and interests in the community that they want to spend their time doing. So I think that being a company in the community that you're in, is a very critical role as a leader, if you want to be a leading company in your community.
For sure. Now, I remember when I interned at TVH, I loved that like volunteer, that was a day off because I've never seen another company that has something like that. So I think
Yes.
that's awesome. And you've talked a lot about how it's like people focus. That's what attracts you to a business. And why do you think like that's important for a company to be focused on the people?
Well, I think without the people, you don't aren't able to do anything. Right? Like technology only goes so far, and you have to have people who are understand the objective and the mission of the company and who want to get behind it. And so in order to motivate and engage your people, you have to talk to them. You
Mhm.
have to give them, unique benefits and perks that make them want to be here. But I think most importantly is helping them to understand their role in making a difference. So for us, it's our customers. We're making a difference for our customers by providing them critical parts to be able to keep the supply chain moving. And, each person in TVH has a role in doing that. And so I think, the bottom line is any business is not going to be successful if they don't put people first,
Right.
because they've got to have people to in TVH's case ship out orders, take sales orders, respond to customers' calls. If you don't have people who are engaged or who aren't here, period, you can't take care of those customers
Right.
like you want to.
Yeah.
And that impacts the business, it impacts revenue.
For sure. Yeah, I think TVH is such a good example of a people-focused company. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yes. So I mentioned or I asked you about some skills earlier that you look for when hiring new employees, but specifically like on leadership skills and experiences, do you look for anything specific or does anything stand out when an employee or a potential employee has a certain experience?
Sure, absolutely. So definitely look for internships,
Right.
because I think it shows initiative to for a student to like spend the summer working instead of hanging out at the pool.
Yeah.
I look for involvement in different, whether it's a sorority or a school-based activity or an organization. I think those leadership experiences are important, and it shows initiative. It shows their ability to develop relationships to be able to get into that position. And it shows that they were able to balance their school with the activities that they were doing. So leadership spots on a sports team or really any other organization. I told my daughter, she's a freshman this year, and she applied for the campus ambassador program. I think that's a really good example of something that would be appealing because it shows, you have school pride, which shows dedication and loyalty. You take the initiative to do something besides just go to school, and you have the communication skills to be able to do tours on campus, and learn all of this information that you need to share. So I think those types of experiences are really important. Project-based work where, when someone is in a project, I ask them to tell me what was your role in the project and how did you ensure that the project met the deadlines and was on budget. And I think those experiences show leadership as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. It's always nice to hear that there's things you can be doing now in college, especially even as a
Yes,
freshman, just to already start getting those things ready and get
yes.
that experience. And I don't know, you can talk about it a little if you'd like, if you were like what you would call like a natural leader, or if it's something you really had to work for. But if people aren't comfortable like being in public or public speaking yet, how can they get more comfortable so that they can take on leadership positions?
I think there's a lot of organizations like Toastmasters that help people overcome some of those fears. Um, and I think, especially for people who are introverted, you've just got to have the experiences. You've got to step out of your comfort zone and sign up for those experiences and get practice, because being in sports, that the only way that you get better is to practice. And
Yeah.
so I think practice makes perfect, and maybe not perfect, but at least comfortable enough um, to gain those skills.
Right. Okay, so that's most of the questions I have. So we can just do a little wrap up. So you said you're leaving TVH and you're still
Yes.
kind of looking, but like,
Yep.
what's next? Like, you mentioned a little bit what you're looking for, but anything?
Yeah. Small to mid-sized company, entrepreneurial spirit, people focused culture, growing. I'm almost not able to even keep track of all the companies I'm talking to. There's some really interesting opportunities. I really like the technology space.
Right.
So I'm talking to 3 companies that do manufacturing of different products. And then I'm also talking to KBC Health Systems. I don't know if you're familiar with KBC. They have, it's a not-for-profit. They place kids in foster care and they help kids get adopted. They have
So,
psychiatric hospitals. But I was on their board when I was at Garmin in like 2005, and it's always been a personal passion for me. So I have an interview with them on Monday. I'm looking at an opportunity with Legacy Restaurant Group, which is actually a restaurant group that owns like 40 Wendy's in Kansas and Missouri. But the thing that attracts me to it is it's franchised by 2 guys who see the need to have a people partner. And so that's really interesting to me. The industry, like there's some that I like better than others. And then this morning I got a call from a company that does like the ASRS. They do like warehousing software and solutions.
cool.
And they are actually a new company of 3 companies that just joined together. And so I'm super interested in that. And then I have an interview with Cerner today as well.
Oh, well, good luck.
So
Have some great
lots
opportunities.
of different opportunities, but definitely want to stay in Kansas City.
Right.
Don't really have any desire, any way to move. We just bought this house that we're in October, and we just got a pool put in ground.
Yeah, you can't
So I'm
leave.
like, not moving.
You gotta stay.
But the opportunity a lot of these companies have multiple locations. One of the things I loved about my job at TVH and at Garmin was the ability to go to those facilities and talk to the employees and just hear what's going on, because as a leader, you need that feedback to be able to make decisions.
For sure.
So yeah, it's all kinds of different opportunities. I'm like,
Yeah.
I
No,
mean, I have like a file with, all the research I've done on each company. So
yeah, no, that's so exciting. We wish you well. That's
yes,
everything I have. So unless there's anything else you want to add.
nope, that's it. But keep in touch and let me know how it's going. If you ever need anything else, I'm happy to help.
Of course. Well, thank you. I wish
Okay,
you well.
thanks,
Bye. Thank
Annabelle.
you.
Bye.